Welcome to the Astrology Show with your host, Kelly Fox. Each week, Kelly will give you access to the current transits that are a valuable tool which provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has through our sun sign. Understanding the current planetary influences each week can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. Sometimes, events in your life may seem completely random, but there is a pattern to the order of these events, one set in motion in part by you, and in part by the planets and stars in the sky and their influence on your life here on Earth. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, if you're going to get that promotion, move to a new city, or fall in love, tune in to the Astrology Show for guidance. It can help you anticipate problems before they occur, give you tools to cope with changes, and help you look forward to the wonderful days ahead. Kelly Fox is a professional astrologer and internet pioneer who launched astrology.com, one of the first and most successful astrology websites. Today, her passion lies with her new site, theastrologer.com, where she brings a modern-day approach to an ancient wisdom. Please join Kelly each week to learn more about how the planets can align for you.
Hi there and welcome to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. This week we have a new moon in Gemini. So I'm going to be talking all about that, as well as some other astrological influences going on. Thank goodness Mercury has finally turned direct. Last week I talked about Mercury turning direct in Taurus, and we can all breathe a big sigh of relief. Mercury didn't really like being in Taurus. Well, it's still in Taurus now, but it especially didn't like being in Taurus when it was retrograde. So finally, Mercury is moving forward again in Taurus. So that's some good news. We can sign our contracts, plan our travel for the summer if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. So this week, when I look at what is going on, the key words that come to mind for me, and I will go into more detail later in the show, and of course at the end of the show, give you your weekly horoscope. But when I look through what's happening this week, it's all about caution around money. I also see that there's some things that might not be clear, dealing with authority, try not to spend too much money. You are spending what you don't have, perhaps. Of course, this all depends on your, not just your sun sign, but the other planets in your chart. And then at the end of the week, we have the Gemini new moon. And that's very interesting because a new moon represents the moon and the sun coming together. So from our perspective here on Earth, the sun and the moon line up and they're coupled up together, both in the sign of Gemini. Now, what that means is Gemini being the third sign of the zodiac, it's all about mental or cerebral, any type of thing that's versatile or flexible. It's all about communication and the intellect. Now, the symbol of Gemini is the twins. And so what that means is the twins, it represents the dual nature of the sign of Gemini. So Gemini is very good at seeing things from all points of view. And Gemini can get bored very easily. Now, in next week's show, I'm going to be talking about the signs. I'm going to take a break from looking at the planets because there's not much going on next week at all, really. And so I thought that'd be a great time to take a look at each of the 12 signs, go through the characteristics of each of the signs, and then go through how each of the signs connects with the others, which signs are more compatible with other signs. So this week, the big news is the Gemini new moon. But what I like to do in each show is go through the aspects, the planetary aspects and influences in chronological order. It just helps me think straight, and it appeases the planets I have in Virgo. So today is Memorial Day in the US, and it's a day that we remember the soldiers that fought for our country, the brave soldiers who have now passed. So it's Memorial Day, and it's the start of summer. It's when in the Northern Hemisphere we mark the start of summer. Labor Day marks the end of summer in the Northern Hemisphere in the USA. So today is Memorial Day, and it's interesting, today's aspect, or the first aspect of the week, is Mercury trining Pluto. And when I talk about the aspects and the days that they occur on, it's not just on that day that aspect has its influence. It's really, depending on what planet it is, the closer the planet is to the sun, the quicker the aspect or the influence occurs. So what that means is the first aspect of the week, today's aspect, is Mercury trine Pluto. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and so what that means is its influence will be shorter than, say, Jupiter or one of the outer planets, where those sort of influences can go for weeks, months, sometimes years, if it's Pluto or Neptune, even Uranus. So with Mercury forming a trine to Pluto, this influence will be effective as of yesterday or even the day before, and then 2 days out, so Tuesday through Wednesday. So anytime I mention one of the inner planets, you know that the influence of this inner planet is going to be shorter than if I mention an outer planet where it's more effective and life-changing. So with Mercury forming a trine to Pluto, this is great news for the Earth signs or anybody that has any planets in Earth signs. And the Earth signs are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And so what that means is you have Mercury, which is planet of the mind and communication. A trine is a favorable aspect. It's when two or more planets are about 120 degrees apart. And Pluto is the heavy hitter. Pluto is definitely the heavy hitter of the planets of the solar system. And yes, astrologers do still consider Pluto as a planet, regardless of the demotion it received a few years ago from astronomers. Pluto is very much part of an astrology reading or anything to do with astrology. Pluto is it. The mythology of Pluto is it is ruler of the underworld, lord of the underworld, ruler of Hades. And yes, it does deserve that reputation. Pluto is the planet of transformation and change. When it's in a hard aspect or forming a hard aspect to somebody's natal planets, it's very much about going through forced changes. In this instance, because Mercury is forming the trine to Pluto, and we always mention the inner planet first to the outer planet, that's just the correct way of doing it. Always mention the inner planet first. So Mercury forming the trine to Pluto, this is excellent news for any sort of research or investigation, any sort of digging or getting to the bottom of something or finding out the truth. It's very good for any sort of public speaking or speaking engagements, giving a presentation at a meeting, having people listen to what you have to say. It's getting to the bottom of something. If you're in a meeting this week, the next few days, or teaching any sort of complex lessons or studying or learning something, this is a great time for these types of activities. With this influence, our minds are sharpened and our organization can be flawless. And as I said, particularly for the earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn, or anybody that has planets in earth signs. It's a time when we can speak with authority because, as I said, people are listening. We can be inspiring because Pluto is the planet of change and transformation. So if we need to have like mind over matter, this is a great influence for that. It's time when we can convince others easily or have them swayed to our point of view. It's like we have a way with words where other times we might not be able to come up with these words eloquently or easily. The thing to watch for, but because it's a trine, which is a positive aspect, so the flip side or the shadow side is not as prominent, but it's still there. So we have to be careful with obsessive or circular thinking. But we do have the mental discipline to move beyond that, and we should. It definitely is a time for mind over matter. Some of us can see, depending on how this aspect or influence affects us personally, we might be able to see what no one else sees. So it's like we're a detective at this time. This is the aspect or the influence of the detective. It's like we can dig things up and we can see things that perhaps other people can't see. So it's good to work on any sort of research project or any type of investigation. It's also an excellent time for self-help, reading a self-help book, seeking out therapy or a therapist, getting to the bottom of something that might have been hidden previously. So if you need a bit of help or guidance in your life, it's a great time to seek out a therapist, even an astrologer for a reading, getting to the bottom of something. It's a time when we aren't afraid to look inward. So it's a time for self-understanding. After the break, I will continue with this week's aspects and influences.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know. I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. I'm talking about the planetary influences for this week and how they will be affecting you and your sign. So the good news is last week, Mercury finally got out of its retrograde motion. Mercury's moving forward in Taurus. And this week, the start of the week kicks off really well because Mercury forms a trine to Pluto. So it's sort of like the past month. Something might have been holding us back, might have been quite frustrating. And this is particularly for the fixed signs, and that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So anything from the past month might have been holding us back. Now we can move forward again, and it's a great time to unearth something with Mercury forming a trine to Pluto. So that's today. No major aspects tomorrow on Tuesday. I'm just double checking my calendar. We have a few moon aspects tomorrow. I don't cover moon aspects in the show because the moon moves so fast. It's a satellite of the Earth, and it's technically not a planet, but astrologers classify the sun and the moon as planets just to make life simple, because astrology is already a very complex topic with certain rules and exceptions to the rules. So I don't cover the moon aspects to the planets because the moon moves so fast that sometimes it will form the same aspect within a 1 month period to a planet. So it's like there's no point in talking about the moon's aspects because it's so fleeting that the influence will be so quick. The time when the moon is very relevant is specifically in a natal chart. So at the moment you were born, the moment you take your first breath, it sets the placement of the moon, and it becomes extremely important or extremely relevant. Also in other different branches of astrology, I know I'm getting off on a tangent here, but the other time when the moon is very important is when you have electional astrology. And electional astrology is when you set a time to do something. You create a time for the moment something begins. And over the years, I've done, I actually enjoy electional astrology very much. Usually it's, I've done many wedding dates and times. People will come to me and ask me to set the best time to get married. The last one I did very recently was a hairdressing salon. So they were opening a salon and they asked me the best time to open the salon. So I gave them that time. I think I have a lifetime of free haircuts for that. And so that's when the moon becomes important. So in case you're wondering, I just wanted to address that is with this show, I discuss the major aspects of the week, which don't include the moon for that reason, because the moon is too fleeting. It moves too fast. It changes sign every 2.5 days. It has a cycle of 28 days. So moving right along, our next planetary aspect or influence of the week is the sun forming a square to Neptune. This is very foggy. This is every time I see Sun square Neptune, I think, we're not going to be thinking clearly, or it's not even necessarily about thinking. It's more about things are not what they seem. So this influence takes effect on Wednesday, and it will be more challenging for the air and water signs or anybody with planets in these elements, which is most of us. And the sun is currently in Gemini, so it's the sun in Gemini forming a square, which is a very challenging aspect. It's when 2 or more planets are 90 degrees apart, or approximately 90 degrees apart. So the sun is in Gemini forming a square to Neptune, which is currently in Pisces. So Sun square Neptune in the mutable signs. So this is challenging for the mutable signs, and the mutable signs being Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So For you, if this is your sign or you have a planet in any one of these mutable signs, things may not be as they seem. Don't take anything on face value. Facts, details are going to be crucial at this time, and this time being this week. So there's like a vague feeling of dissatisfaction, could be spiritual angst. It's like something just doesn't feel right and you can't place your finger on it. Energy and motivation might be low at this time. Any sort of mental tasks leave us feeling challenged or confused. We could kick and scream in protest, but the energy just isn't there. It might be easier to escape either in sullen silence or through drugs and alcohol with the sun forming a square to Neptune. Really try not to avoid taking the low road. It's going to feel like for many of us that that's the way to escape reality, because anytime Neptune's involved in a hard aspect and the sun and, the square and the opposition are classified as hard aspects. Anytime Neptune's involved with a hard aspect, we want to escape reality. We don't want to deal with what's in front of us, or we don't know what's in front of us. It's confusing. We're not sure. So it's important to stay alert, stay on top of things, as much as the desire is there to run away. We need to stay and deal with the issues that we have in front of us. Sometimes with this aspect, when the sun forms a square to Neptune, our skin is just a little bit too thin right now, so our feelings could get easily hurt. The other thing with Neptune, because it's the planet of intuition and psychic ability, we're absorbing a lot. So an example of that is if you walk into a room, you're in a great mood, there's people in the room, you walk in, and suddenly you leave the room and you're in a bad mood and you don't know why. That's Neptune. That's Neptune in a hard aspect. It's like we're sponges. We're absorbing energy and we don't know, or we don't have our filters or our protection. So actually on that note, it's a really, really great week to practice our white light, to practice our protection. It's a great time to ask for guidance because Neptune is the planet of spirituality, or it's one of the planets of spirituality and intuition. It's very important that we protect ourselves this week because Sun represents self. It's the core of who we are. The square is the challenge, and Neptune is about spirituality and the higher source. So it's very important that we protect ourselves because with this aspect, we're picking things up energetically and we don't even realize it. Again, there's a lot of people that are getting colds, I've noticed, just the past couple of days. So that's a great, easy example is people are sick. We're more prone or easily picking things up that are going around. This is a time to, we're better off waiting to make any important moves or decisions because things are not clear. Neptune is also the ruler of fog. So it's like we're seeing a situation through the fog and it's not very clear or very obvious of what needs to happen. So it's like if you can possibly this week, it's better for brainstorming or daydreaming or anything that's abstract is a better use of this energy of the sun forming a square to Neptune. This is not a time to make major decisions, and particularly because of the other aspects and influences that I'm going to talk about that are coming up. So, Thursday and Friday, there's some pretty hard aspects going on towards the end of this week, particularly around money, which I will cover after the break. But it's like this is the time to not make any important moves or major decisions. Lay low if you can. I know that's not realistic because, we have to work. We have to be on it when we're at work. So it's important to just keep this in the back of your mind and be sure to get sleep. Neptune is the planet of the subconscious, and that also covers sleep. And so it's important to not cut sleep. If you have any dreams this week, pay attention to your dreams. We're very finely tuned to a different channel, different dimension anytime Neptune's involved. But most of us won't realize that because of this Sun squaring Neptune. If there's any time that you can take a nap or get to bed early, definitely do so. If you work out at the gym or any type of exercise, it's not really a time for that. It's more of a time for meditation, anything to calm ourselves rather than amping ourselves up. And there's no use in pushing what just won't come. It's sort of like pushing up against the fog, or you go and you put your hand out for something and you can't grab it. It's like a mirage. Whenever I think of the Sun forming a square to Neptune, it's very much a mirage, or something doesn't exist, or it seems like it's there and it really isn't. I can't give any medical advice. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but it's pay attention to any sort of health issues and go and get a checkup. Anything to do with the immune system. So as I said before, there's colds. I've noticed a few people around with colds. Our defenses are low at this time with this aspect. After the break, I will continue with this week's astrological influences.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Are you wondering what is really going on behind the news? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share on the Air Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio. You can also find us on shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. Check it out.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. What if business could be fun? What if business is the adventure of living? What are you choosing? Where do you do business that makes it easier, more fun, or more joyful for you? We'd love to see where you do business. Connect with us on Instagram at Joy of Business or Twitter at Joy of Business, and share your pictures with hashtags BusinessDoneWhere and Joy of Business. Let's change the world with business.
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there, welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. I'm talking about the planetary influences this week. Could be a little bit of a challenging week for some of us, particularly for the mutable signs. The mutable signs being Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And I will continue. I just talked about the Sun squaring Neptune. Very important to protect yourself. Think of the white light, ask for protection from your guides, and try and avoid anybody that's sick. Our immune systems or defenses are low. So on Thursday, the next aspect we have is Venus, love planet Venus, forming a square, which is a challenge to Neptune. Neptune once again. And before the break, I just talked all about Neptune, and here it is all over again. Neptune is the planet of, I say it's the planet of the ethereal. Typically, it's anything we can't touch or feel, and it rules spirituality and intuition, anything that goes around energetically that we can't see is part of Neptune's domain. So we have Venus square Neptune. And anytime I see Venus forming a square to Neptune, I don't like that aspect if it's got anything to do with money or finances. So if you're thinking of making a major purchase this week, be very careful. It's not just this aspect. You know, I mentioned the Sun forming a square to Neptune. Now we've got Venus, which is love and money, forming a square to Neptune. Also, we've got the Sun opposite Saturn. And then tomorrow, Venus is opposing Saturn. These are not good aspects for any type of financial decisions. So if you can put off any financial decisions, do so until next week after the new moon on Saturday. So when Venus forms a square to Neptune, it's like mysteries call us at this time, and it's hard to turn away. It's like we want to resist something, but we keep going towards it. And reality rudely intrudes into our dreamy illusions. So it's sort of like, you know, we've got high ideals or big ideas on things that we want or things that we want to buy or use our credit card on, and it's really not a good idea to do that. So it's like, keep in mind that one person's daydream is another's inspiration. And it's sort of like how you view this aspect or influence. So we can't be quick to dismiss the beautiful images flowing through our brains from our imaginations under this influence, but we need to keep reality in mind. And as I just said, it's not about this one particular aspect. It's what's going on at the end of this week. There's some challenging aspects, and they all bring into question our view of reality. So it might be hard to focus because Neptune is playing a role here with a couple of these harder aspects this week. So it's important to not be gullible, I think is a good word for this Venus-Neptune aspect. Some of us, particularly the mutable signs, we might be feeling a bit gullible, impractical, maybe half asleep, daydreaming. It's crucial when it comes to spending money. So be very careful about spending money this week. Money might slip through our fingers like grains of sand. And when it comes to romance, because Venus is the planet of love and romance, we might be a bit too dreamy. It's like we're all too likely to ignore any red flags raised at this time when it comes to romance, especially if you're on the dating scene, going on a first date this week. Be very careful. If there's any way you could put off your first date until next week, after the new moon, after these hard aspects are over, that would be so much better. It's not really a great week for first dates because the person might not be who they seem. Be very careful with love and money. Do not ignore any red flags. Neptune's involved. Neptune is a planet of intuition. It's going to be crucial this week to listen to your gut instinct or your intuition. Pay attention to everything. Don't overlook any sort of detail, no matter how small it might be, because later we might regret it. Everything at this time might be an illusion, so later reality will be revealed. Also on Thursday, we have the Sun opposing Saturn. Oh, I wish I could have that sound like da-da-da-da-da, that sort of thing. Sun opposing Saturn. Sun in Gemini. An opposition means two or more planets are 180 degrees apart. Saturn is one of the heavy hitters of the zodiac. And Saturn is the planet of karma. It is, and I'm using the negative keywords because it's an opposition. It's a hard aspect. The Sun is 180 degrees away from Saturn, which means the Sun is exactly opposite Saturn on Thursday. An opposition and a square are considered hard aspects. So the Sun is opposing Saturn. And once again, I'm sorry to say, but this is challenging for the mutable signs. Poor old mutable signs this week are getting hit a bit too hard with the planetary influences. And the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. A bit of a challenging week for you or anybody that has any planets in these signs. So, Sun opposite Saturn. This is all about authority, all about leadership and not challenging authority or leadership. So individuals square off against any sort of leadership at this time. Be very careful for any sort of random assertions of authority. Our bosses or any sort of red tape or government leaders will be pulling rank. Our boss this week might be driving us nuts. They might be too demanding, more than usual, especially if you're a mutable sign, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces. And the interesting thing is, any sort of hard aspect to do with Saturn is about parental issues. It's like parental issues come up. And if our boss is breathing down our neck this week, we might be seeing our parents standing in front of us instead. So be very careful about that. So parental issues might raise their ugly heads in the form of problems with authorities. I know that sounds sort of weird and strange, but believe me, it comes up a lot. Anytime Saturn's in a hard aspect, it's really issues that we haven't dealt with around our parents are projected onto the authorities in our lives. So some of us might find ourselves backed into a corner and forced to explain ourselves when we come under attack by our managers or supervisors. So bosses and teachers want to make sure that everything is up to their high standards when the Sun opposes Saturn. Criticism might be a big thing, looking at the negative instead of the positive. And they'll do this in the form of constructive criticism. It's hard to hear and hard to swallow. So many of us will become painfully aware of our limitations and are forced to eat humble pie. But there is an upside to everything. I know I've been sounding like a negative Nelly on this show. There is an upside. What is that? Let me think about that. So it's sort of like, okay, we're forced to go back and dot the I's and cross the T's with this aspect. So that's good. It's like we can't brush over anything at this time. Now, there's conflicting energies because on Wednesday when the Sun forms a square to Neptune, it's like forget the details. We just want to brush over it, forget all about it. But come Thursday, the next day, when the sun opposes Saturn, it's all about paying attention to the detail. It's like we have to get it right the first time. Don't take any shortcuts this week, particularly around finances. The other thing about when the sun forms an opposition to Saturn, seeking the advice of an older person might offset the negativity or the challenge that comes with this aspect. Friday, we have Venus opposite Saturn. So Venus formed a square to Neptune, will form a square to Neptune on Thursday, and then on Friday it's forming an opposition to Saturn. This is pretty heavy stuff. So it's like, again, challenging for the mutable signs, the poor old mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So negotiations are tricky under this influence. And at this time when Venus opposes Saturn, difficult choices must be made at this time. It's sort of like we need to find a compromise without feeling like the loser or getting the shorter end of the stick. Everyone has to give up something under this influence, but, ultimately in the long term, something will come back. But it's all about patience. So be careful, love and money. This is mainly what it refers to. Duties and obligations preclude any sort of social activities right now. It's like chores before fun. We might have to work a lot of overtime. As I said, our boss might be breathing down our neck this week. We really need to put in the work where it's required. Definitely no shortcuts this week. Somebody might be giving us their honest appraisal of our work. As hard as it might be to hear, we need to pause and listen. Take it as a gift and a blessing rather than a criticism. For some of us, money might feel tight when Venus opposes Saturn, so we might have to survive on less than usual. But on the flip side, as I said, there's always a positive and a negative. We can actually take pride in this Spartan existence. It's amazing how little a person really needs to get by, especially on a temporary basis. So we're capable of saying no, so just say no. Don't go out on a splurge this week. Everything points to not doing that. Pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and get moving. Just know it's a short influence. More after the break.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hi there and welcome back to the Astrology Show. I'm your host and astrologer, Kelly Fox. I will be continuing now with this week's planetary energies, and there are a lot, especially affecting the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius and Pisces. So on Saturday, we have the Sun squaring Jupiter and Venus squaring Jupiter. So what that means is the Sun is the core of who we are, a square is a challenge, and Jupiter is, on the flip side, it's excess, but on the positive, it's optimism, expansion, luck and good fortune. I'm using not so positive keywords because these two planets, and I know the Sun is a star, but we call it a planet, these two planets are joined together by a 90-degree aspect called a square. So it's like our confidence, our energy, our bounce. These qualities are evident, but possibly to excess. So it's sort of like Jupiter is the planet of excess. Anything it touches, it amplifies. So take care with excess this week. It's about inflation. Sometimes we just don't know when enough is enough under this influence. So be very careful not to overeat, overreach, or be too self-indulgent. We might find that we're taking on too much, there's too much work. We might feel that we have a can-do mentality, but really it's like burning the candle at both ends with this influence. So if somebody asks you, and as I was just saying before the break, your boss will probably ask you to do some overtime or stay back or take on someone else's job. It might feel a little bit overwhelming with this Sun forming a square to Jupiter. So it's trying to find a balance. When I look at all the energies this week, it's like very much about finding a balance. The other thing that's going on Saturday is Venus forming a square to Jupiter. Again, challenging for the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So this is also about excess, particularly around money. And so it's like even sticking to a diet could be pretty hard during this time period. So because there's a lot of self-indulgence and a lack of self-discipline. We might want to be overdoing something because it feels good, because we're escaping the reality of, the rest of the week. It's like we're looking for pleasure in any form that we can find. So it's important to stay grounded with all this energy that's going on this week. And work is going to be a drag when all we want to do is party. And we can't pretend that it's okay. We can't sweep things under the rug. We need to deal with our stuff. So it's sort of like too much of a good thing. So we might just want to grab the brass ring just because we can reach it, but really when we get it, we don't want it after all. So it's be very cautious about going on any sort of spending spree this week, engaging in any sort of retail therapy or overeating. And, maybe we want to be pampering our inner child. But it's time to stop because this is a very indulgent transit, also with the Sun forming the square to Jupiter. So this is the weekend, the end of the week. And then finally, we have a new moon in Gemini on Saturday, the final aspect of the week or influence. And the new moon is when the Sun and Moon come together in Gemini. Anytime there's a new moon, it's great for new beginnings, starting new things. But before we can start something new, we need to end something first. So whatever is open-ended, particularly if it's anything intellectual, it's a great time to wrap something up. We have a lot of ideas. We are very distracted when there's a new moon in Gemini. It's very good for any sort of intellectual pursuit. We're not going to be short on ideas, but the main challenge will be to pick and choose the ones that are the most pragmatic and beneficial, because there's going to be so many things going on. It's important to prioritize during the Gemini new moon. So they're the aspects and transits and influences of the week. A very busy week we've got this week. And overall, it's important to stay grounded and be realistic and not overindulge. And really, it's a message for the mutable signs, because all of these, I'm just double checking, most if not all of these aspects are in mutable signs. That's very interesting. And so if you're a Gemini, a Virgo, a Sagittarius, or a Pisces, this applies to you more so. Now for your weekly horoscope. If you're an Aries, education and learning are important, but your fears are preventing you from getting stuck into new training. You are perfectly capable. Step outside your comfort zone and just give it a go. As a cardinal sign, you're an initiator, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So there's some sort of block going on for you, Aries, at the moment, holding you back. But as a cardinal sign, you're an initiator and a trendsetter, and it shouldn't be too hard to take that first step. If you're a Taurus, think again about your refusal to help a friend. You know that he or she would help you if the situation were reversed. This is not a time to be selfish with your resources, be they time, money, or expertise. So this is a time to reach out and help others, particularly if they are a mutable sign. Mutable signs need some help this week from the other signs. So it will be important, if you're a Taurus, to help other people. If you're a Gemini, a mutable sign, Gemini, seek to affirm your identity as a whole person this week. You are not just what you do for a living, and nor are you just someone's partner, parent, child, or friend. Assert your individuality with pride and courage. Gemini, you will be very tested this week, given the hard planetary aspects and influences. This is a time to stand up for who you are and what you're about. Don't just meld with someone else. If you're a Cancer, you are challenged to give more than you have to give this week, whether emotionally or practically. Your compassion is without question, as always, and you'll certainly try, but leave enough in the tank for your own needs. Sometimes with Cancer, you just give and give and give and don't receive as much. It's about finding the balance. If you're a Leo, a creative block this week can be removed by not thinking too much about it. Good ideas will flow when you're not trying. Distract yourself with the things you love doing and watch innovative ideas sneak up on you. If you're a Virgo, in an ideal world, your work and your family life would be balanced and in harmony. Sure, like everyone else's. Just do the best you can and know that nobody thinks poorly of you. We're all trying to solve that conundrum. If you're a Libra, travel broadens the mind this week, but not if you forget your tickets or other important details. Forgetfulness is caused by too much rushing about. Take your time to slow down and enjoy the scenery. If you're a Scorpio, power games and resentments in a relationship could lead to jealousy, flirting, and risk-taking all around. It's a heady mixture this week, so be sure that you know what you're getting yourself into before you take the plunge. If you're a Sagittarius, facing competing demands from your family and your partner, all you really want this week is some peace and some me time. So take it. Let the world turn without you for a while, and the conflicts will fizzle out. If you're a Capricorn, there's too much to do and you're becoming increasingly frazzled and stressed. Prioritize carefully this week and don't waste time on things which are neither urgent nor important. Priorities and priorities. If you're an Aquarian, the desire to fit in could lead you to some strange decision this week. Do you really want to be one of the crowd? If you're a true Aquarian, absolutely not. Your natural rebelliousness struggles just now. but you can surely find a comfortable compromise somewhere, Aquarius. And as a fixed sign, I know this can be challenging to compromise, but it's going to be really important, especially because of these very challenging aspects we have this week. And finally, if you're a Pisces and a mutable sign, never mind what your family wants or what your partner wants or what your boss wants. What do you want? It's important this week to make your own voice heard. Don't be pushed around. And I know that's going to be hard this week for the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, but it's going to be very important. There's a test this week, a test when it comes to love and money and who we are and what we see and what's in front of us and what is clear and what isn't. And I always am one to say, listen to your gut instinct, but this time it's important to not only listen to your intuition, but to double check it with fact. It's going to be very crucial to be doing that. With the Gemini new moon on Saturday, it's all about new beginnings, but we need to wrap things up first. So thanks for joining me this week. That was a lot. There is a lot going on this week. It's important to stay grounded. Try not to make any major financial decisions if you possibly can. And try not to be too indulgent and spend money you don't have. Looking forward to next week's show. Tune in then.